Hi everyone, it's SofiaA and this is my Zenith project. So, what is this project about? I really wanted to create my first art book because over the past year or so, I've been developing some original characters, and it was kind of like a really cool idea to just put them all together in an art book, as if someday maybe they have their own show, so I can look back at it or something. So yeah, this is kind of just like the compendium of these characters and their stories. And yeah, maybe when it becomes a show, if it ever becomes a show, I can look back at it, see how much they've changed or how much the story has changed, or just as a little, yeah, just like a time capsule of some sort of my art in general. So what goes into creating a character? Well, 38% of it is you cry because you remember you can't draw. You give them some trauma, see them try to figure that out. You look up clothing inspiration from Pinterest, and you spend about, 10 hours finding a name on Google for baby names. This is fail-proof system. Tested, it works. But for real, well, first of all, you get an idea, which is basically how all of my characters have happened. You get an idea, like a concept of some sort. You start making the sketches of that character, what you think they look like. And sometimes the concepts and the personality kind of switch places, because you kind of need to figure out their personality a little bit before you actually start sketching them out, figuring out how they look like. But even so, after you figure out their personality or concept sketches, you move on to motivations and goals to see, what are they doing in the story? What's their goal? And then after that, it's just details on both sketches and their personality and just details. So what I learned from this experience, not only from creating the art book, but also from creating the characters, is that there's a lot of research that goes into it, a lot of brainstorming as well. So for instance, most of my characters are mostly set in fictional type worlds, very fantasy-like. So for that, there's a little bit of wiggle room, so you can create different laws to the universe or so. But if you're making characters that live in this type of world, like the Earth per se, you kind of want to be accurate with what their details about their life is, or their surroundings and whatnot. So for instance, my characters are very, very much derived from universe and galaxy type vibe. So there's a lot that I had to look up about stars and our solar system. There's also the details that are mostly key, because for instance, for one of my characters, that's the main character, took me a long time to figure out what her personality was like, what she looked like, because I couldn't answer some questions yet, like what her motivations were, or what she did out there. So after I finally answered those questions, it was more easy for me make a concept of her for both sketches and her personality. So the struggles of this was that I was kind of overreaching a little bit, and I decided to create 3 new characters in the span of 2 to 3 weeks, however Zenith was. And that was a horrible idea for my part. Yeah, because I had to sketch more, make more concepts of them, and that was just too much for me. And also because I had to cut a few things. I did want to add more concepts of the worlds and what the weapons look like and whatnot. And also had to cut 2 characters that one is kind of developed and the other one is kind of not. Yeah. So I inspired from this art books mostly because of how they were organized. Not only because of the art as well. Each of these productions holds a very special place in my heart for different reasons. But for their art book specifically, there was a similar organization for them. So there was the cover, obviously, the foreword, the intros, the contents, and whatnot. So that's kind of how I organized mine as well. And I also inspired a little bit from mini documentary called Inside Pixar, and there it's just kind of talking about like what the lives of people that work at Pixar are like, and the ones that I like was more drawn to were the concept artists and the artists who come up with the plot and whatnot. So it's my creating the characters is a little bit inspired of like, maybe I can do this in the future in Pixar. We'll see how that goes. So yeah. Other inspirations include Pinterest, because I really do be inspiring from their aesthetics. And yeah, it's really good to like get inspiration from the internet just for like references and whatnot, and that's a lot of where my character's aesthetic comes from. And then there's a bunch of other inspirations that I have, but mostly or the ones that are like most highlighted for this specific project or for the characters include The Little Prince, which is a children's book that really helped me to connect to my childlike side and just holds a very special place in my heart. Pixar and Disney obviously have amazing productions that are just amazing, and I really inspire from them a lot. Pan's Labyrinth, the movie by Guillermo del Toro, which is just crude reality meets fantasy, and also holds a very special place in my heart. All of these productions hold a very special place in my heart, but these are the highlights, so that one's included. The Neverending Story, which mostly inspired my characters and wanting to make them like very different from each other, which in the Neverending Story they have like such unique and different characters. And finally, some shows from Cartoon Network, including Steven Universe. If you know me, you know that I love Steven Universe, and the universe type vibe that it has is something that I inspired from a lot to make my own characters. So without further ado, I'm gonna go over my little art book. Just gonna go over the slides a little fast. If you want, you can pause to read over that because there's a lot of text, but I'm just gonna kind of resume it because I don't want to take a lot of time. So we have the cover first and the first page. Moon's Comet is the title of kind of this series, this show, whatever you want to call it. That's not technically a show yet, but this whole story. And it took me a little bit to come up with that title, but it's basically because in this story, the moon is kind of connected in all of the different universes that we meet in the story. And there's a moon in every universe, so they're all connected, and yeah, just for lack of wording, that's how I can explain it the best. So I had the foreword and the introduction. The foreword just explaining a little bit of how I got into like creating characters like about a year or so, like when I started freestyle. In the introduction is just kind of like a little, so this is what it's gonna be in the book type thing. We have the contents. Let's just go over characters, a few other things, and the conclusion, and a little dedicatory to my parents, my friends from freestyle, and all the freestyle staff for all your support. So the first character is Nova. Again, you can pause to read it a little bit. But basically, she's the main character. She's half a star, half human, kind of like a hybrid. And we follow her story as she becomes like half a star, and it's just kind of a very complex story that I couldn't resume too much, but this is just the tiny snippet of who she is, what she is, I mean, and some concept sketches. As you can see, like I have some concepts of what her eyes look like, that is kind of moonstones. Yeah, this is a little bit of her. We have Maggie, who's also one of the main characters, but a little less than Nova. And yeah, following her first appearance, I mentioned there that it's she becomes kind of like the heart and the little humanity type character, just very, very friendly by nature, very outgoing and whatnot. And yeah, she kind of she's just kind of one of the main characters. We have Sebastian, or Sebas for short, who is Maggie's best friend, and I'm going to his background story a lot. He is very, very important for Maggie's kind of character development, because he kind of acts like as a conscience for her. And their friendship is just very, they complement each other a lot for different reasons. We've got Cleo, who is Nova's aftermath of being a star, of like becoming a star. So she really has like a very, very deep effect on Nova's kind of story arc as well. Just a little bit more negative or positive, or however you want to see it, because it's kind of very subjective how good their interaction was to each other. But basically, Cleo is a full star. Stars in this universe have the choice to become human-like and you just to understand humans better, just to like have another form other than the stars we see. But it's very, very rare, and Cleo is the exception to that. So when Nova turns into a star, Cleo is the first one that she finds and begins to guide her through her new abilities and whatnot. So Mechanism and Bruno are the characters that I decided to develop very into this project already. It was a little bit of a bad idea, but I'm glad that I did anyway. Mykonos, there's not a lot of development yet, but we do know that she is basically the same as Nova. She's a hybrid of a fallen star, and she's gonna be like one of the most wittiest and smart characters of the whole story. That's also gonna be very important for the plot later on. Bruno is one of his kind. He's a shapeshifter, and he also plays a key role in uncovering the connection with Nova's and Mykonos anomalies. Then we have Ella, who's a nymph, also one of the first characters I created, I think. And yeah, I'm very drawn to Greek myths and whatnot, so I wanted to add like a nymph into this universe. However, she is not kind of like the typical nymphs that are very delicate, very ladylike. She actually, her drive is anger for the most part, and anger towards humans, because as we know. And finally, we have Nox, who is kinda a legend, but is one of the most important characters in the whole story. We might not see them a lot though, because as I said, they're kind of a legend, but Nox is kind of the connection between all the universes and all the anomalies, and this character doesn't appear until like very, very much later. So this is one of like probably my favorite parts of the book, which is just going into Starburn, which is the ship name for Nova and Maggie, and their relationship is a little close to my heart, just because, I mean, yeah, they are my characters, but also because these two characters weren't really looking for love, like, or at least that type of love, but they did find it in each other, and it's kind of very complementary to each other as well, and very, very, I don't know, just heartwarming, a really important connection between the two of them. And this chapter is just kind of explaining how it happened and the basic dynamic that is a relationship later on. And then we have the second page, as well as we get into concept art. So you probably noticed that some of this art is not my art style. It's actually, some of this art is provided by my good friend Maya. But yeah, this is just some concept art of the characters that is not included in their chapters, but I did want to include anyway. The second page, which is just some finished pieces, also some art that I didn't do, but they are from my characters and I really love. And finally, we have the conclusion. You can pause and read it if you want, but just a basic thank you for going with me this little journey of my characters and their stories. Very much appreciated. And the really cool thing about this project is that it's not even done yet. I mean, yes, given I didn't get to finish all the things that I wanted to include, but also it's just not done at all, because I know that these stories and the characters are going to change eventually. I'm going to keep developing them, and it's something that I look forward to very much, and still it's definitely the one of the projects that I'm the most proud of, because it's really not the work of 2 to 3 weeks from the past 2 to 3 weeks. It's work that I've been doing for over a year or so, like developing these characters and their sketches and whatnot. So I really love this little project, and I hope you liked it too. And thanks for tuning in, I guess. Bye, I guess.